In this presentation, I'm going to refer to a book which is still largely taboo. There are several reasons why this is the case. I'll be touching on one, I think the prime reason. When I first read it, and it's not easy to read because in a way it's messy, incoherent, and there's a streak of sort of suppressed anger through it, which makes it harder to feel a sympathy necessary to seek the meaning. I bought this years ago when I was at university, when it was even less fashionable, I think, in the middle to late 70s at Manchester, when the anti-Marxist, anti-Nazi League, who did a lot of good work, but were extraordinarily dangerous in their own right, were quite strong. And they didn't take a liking to me, I can tell you. Had they known what I was doing in the background, apart from reading Das Kapital and various other texts, raw texts, not those filtered through the academics, I think they would have really come for me. And the worst that happened was I was chased across the rubble which surrounded the university in those days with people yelling, "Get the fascist," which seemed rather strange to me at the time. Anyway, here's the offending item. And yes, it is quite challenging, to say the least. But in the meantime, I was writing this thing, which caused mayhem in the academics of my department. Such a bitter rift that it spilt out into the wider university. Meanwhile, of course, I knew nothing was going on because I think it was considered taboo to even be seen talking to me. I do understand why, and it didn't hurt me particularly because I was busy trying to find things out and not particularly interested in being involved in the social rules and etiquette at the time. Later on, I caused more upset with this thing. As you can imagine, getting at published is impossible, you might say because the content isn't up to scratch, but any senior manager and executive in a corporation will know that the first and most important qualification that keeps them in their position and enables them to get on as well as to serve their business and company appropriately is political competence. Some might call it diplomacy, tact, being able to see round corners and so on. Without that, however well qualified in terms of technical ability, you're done for. Someone will frame you or set you up or whatever, and you get sacked. So these things are important. A lot of this stuff isn't spoken. And the same thing applies to that rather odd black book with white writing I've just shown you. So this is about the artificial stupidity and psychopathy and inhumanity of fascism. Is the same as the artificial stupidity, psychopathy and inhumanity of Marxism. Secular and religious ideology let rip otherwise normal people as engineered stupidity, psychopathy and inhumanity combine and metamorphose into cruelty incarnate. It's a common mistake to assume the prime targets of ideology are supposedly poorly educated, less intelligent, lower classes or castes. But these groups are less vulnerable to ideology than the more educated and intelligent. They're consequently harder to inculcate with key jargon necessary to implant thought algorithms. A suspicion of long words combined with greater utilitarianism arising from more immediate relationship with the material world makes ideological inculcation more difficult, where it's easier in the case of the highly educated and intelligent, who are quite incapable of mopping floors, repairing guttering, laying bricks or mending motor cars. Where it's useful to inculcate everyone to increase the chance of success, a better plan is to focus on the most willing to surrender their agency, who will, once captured, be well placed to inculcate those less vulnerable, and, where necessary, force the rest into obedience by such devices as the judicial use of fear. Read the last phrase as you may. Although Marxism and Fascism appear to be different, once selling methods and false promises are stripped away, the mask slips and both are revealed to be the same. A Pied Piper playing a different tune will lead children, or in this case adults, to the same ghastly authoritarian state. Unfortunate circumstances caught up in modern political chaos have the potential to morph into horror for those taken in who never see beyond the mask of utopian promises, flags, inspiring jargon, and systematic feel-good ideological jargon, stripping them of moral judgment and agency, turning them into tools of cruelty. Axiomatic thinking calls for the inculcation of ideological principles. Wittgenstein's strangely Dickensian focus on facts appears to be one of his listed principles in the Tractatus, with an emphasis similar to that of Dickens' sadistic schoolmaster Wackford Squeers and with the curriculum of Thomas Gradgrind. Principle 1.1, the world is the totality of facts and not things, can be seen in the Tractatus. Scroll down to page 27 of this PDF, which is in the written transcript. In Engels, A Communist Confession of Faith, there's an extensive list of axioms. Dig enough and you'll find principles in Mein Kampf, such as in Part 2, Section 2, the state. The state is a means to an end. Its end lies in the preservation and advancement of a community of physically and psychically homogeneous creatures. The appeal of what seems to be an incoherent mess of a book is that it taps into the disturbed non-logic of the intersubjective in Germany of the time. Where consistent, pure ideological systems call for a more calculated inculcation of intelligentsia. Crudely, it presses more buttons with greater appeal to those seeking to make sense of the confusion in their heads, where coherent ideology takes over thinking, clearing confusing, transferring all responsibility for moral and social decisions to inculcated thought algorithms. The contrast is between the triumph of the will and a communist confession of faith. But axioms do lurk beneath the apparent chaos of Mein Kampf. The cold, unscripted industrial mass murder of Jewish people was by ideological dictate. The system was so rigid that, although necessary structures were ready, the process was delayed because patents had not been finalized for Zyklon B with its active component of hydrogen cyanide. It is staggering, in an age where disagreeing with socialist or quasi-Marxist attitudes so often leads to allegations of fascism, that AH's book has not been seriously studied. Academics who don't know or won't understand the second and third paradoxes of reason and the need to rescue contradiction from self-destruction can't get their minds around the non-logic of a book written by someone who changed world history, killing millions on the way. For all their education and intelligence, they lack the art and sophistication. For the same reason, most modern academics are incapable of giving culture and society due respect. That incoherent or inconsistent entities exist in the intersubjective is beyond their ken. That the rules of existence vary depending on physical, subjective and intersubjective realities is utterly unknown to them. No wonder closed system political theories that academics teach to their students, along with unhealthy contempt for democracy, are the source of appalling political danger now threatening us. Artificial stupidity, psychopathy and inhumanity are needless threats that can be seen off with concerted propaganda to make the mask slip from an authoritarian ogre stalking our future. The intelligentsia is close to losing its mind, if an abstraction could have any agency. Too many individuals that make it up have surrendered their agency to a closed system political ideology. Their hatred of democracy is obvious because democracy understands, accommodates and respects contradiction and disagreement. It intuitively grasps the paradoxes of reason and is bulwark against stupidity, psychopathy and inhumanity. Diseased minds of ideologues have come to consider the mask of sound character and moral probity. It is that serious. Well, there you go. I do believe that there's a good chance we can see through and stop these ideologues from running riot again. I say again because that happened towards the middle of the 20th century, when we had a war which was ideologically triggered, and the forces of democracy, however flawed that democracy was, managed to spike it. Unfortunately, in the process, we did not deal with the entire ideological spectrum of left and right. We only really crucified the right, which was good and proper. In 1945-46, for instance, the greatest book burning, actually book pulping, in the history of humanity took place as sound work was done to expunge Nazi ideology. Nothing happened about the communist ideology, and its main proponent, Joseph Stalin. He killed millions more than the Nazis in the end, the majority of them through internal war against his own population. It was a gross and beyond criminal program that he was involved with. Meanwhile, he thought, I think genuinely, that he was doing the work of the righteous. Such is the terrifying influence that ideology can hold on people. And this is what must be stopped. The sight of bourgeois, middle class, upper middle class people spouting Marxist ideology makes my blood run cold, that their stupidity should be raised to such artificial heights that all humanity is expunged from their souls and they become little more than agents for inhuman cruelty and, I guess in some cases, willing executioners of all who disagree with them. So yeah, there's a lot to be done, and it can be done. I'm doing my little bit here, and I know others are doing the same thing. But until academia admits that it should study democracy seriously and understand how it manages to accommodate and respect contradiction and disagreement, absorb the truth of the paradoxes of reason, and understand metamorphosis of meaning, which gives us freedom of thought, I'm not saying necessarily freedom of will, then we will have an uphill struggle. The focus should be on the universities and firmly on academics. Generally, academia has failed totally in its prime duty of underpinning civilization. It's just reversed away from it. And that is why there are mountains of books on closed system political theory in copyright libraries, and virtually nothing about democracy and the fact that it is the most powerful political system in the world, and that I think could ever be. But none of that. Instead, we have this mountain of authoritarian B.S. I think it's hard to imagine that stupidity could be so gross, so monumental, and that people should be happy to let it carry on through psychopathy to rampant inhumanity. We've seen it in the great Marxist regimes, Russia, China, Cambodia, and it's still trundling on in North Korea. Ignorance and spoiled arrogance, the sheer narcissism of people who believe this sort of stuff it's breathtaking. But we can deal with it, and I'll keep on hammering away. Thanks for listening.